They subjected a woman to public harassment, and then a well-known actor made them regret their actions. The full train compartment was filled with the typical sounds of people talking to one another and walking about. An individual named Lena, a young lady who had just finished working a lengthy shift at the hospital, was one among the passengers. They laughed, obviously taking pleasure in her misery. When she felt it, it was the undeniable brush of a hand on her rear. She was leaning against a pole, and her face was lined with tiredness. Her tummy began to twist. She abruptly turned around and met the gaze of a guy who was smiling and was surrounded by two buddies. "Got a problem, sweetheart?" The voice of one of them was filled with a sense of superiority as he taunted. As if to maintain their composure, one of them scoffed off. "Are you sure? What are you going to do about it, you serious individual?" It was none other than Jason Cole, the most renowned action actor in Hollywood, who was known for his no-nonsense performances and his real-life proficiency in martial arts. He was standing only a few steps away, his piercing eyes fixed on the harassers. She tightened her hands tightly, though she was aware that addressing them may make the situation worse. She was unable to answer because a deep and authoritative voice pierced through the background commotion. The person who was lying on the ground uttered an apology with a gulp, his face flushed with embarrassment. "Indeed, she is dealing with a dilemma. And you too. Do it. You okay?" I can't believe you just did that. Or what is it? "Will you engage in combat with us, movie star?" Everyone's attention was drawn. The security tape of the event quickly circulated like wildfire, and prominent news outlets lauded Jason for his positive deeds. But what is the most exciting part? After some time, the harassers were recognized and taken into custody, all due to a tip that was provided by a certain Hollywood A-list talent. A glimmer of recognition appeared in the eyes of the soldiers as they stumbled. He shrugged off the plaudits. The real hero here is Lena. She kept her cool when most people would have been terrified. Within a span of 48 hours, all three of them were terminated from their positions, leaving their social media profiles filled with fury and their employers receiving irate phone calls. It had 10 million views by the time the following morning rolled around, and it was trending at #1 all around the globe with hashtags such as #JasonCalero and #SubwayJustice. As a result of doing an in-depth investigation into their history, many complaints of assault that had been ignored were discovered. The prosecution has now reopened those cases, which are being watched by the whole world. When it came to public harassment, news organizations were clamoring for interviews. Late-night broadcasters were cracking jokes. And even politicians participated in the conversation by advocating for more stringent rules. In the past, Derek had evaded a narcotics accusation that he had had. "Is that Tyler?" According to his ex-girlfriend, he threatened her via text messages, and she came forward with evidence. Cities have announced additional safety measures on public transportation, and there has been a 300% increase in the number of people signing up for self-defense lessons. She was introduced to a new acquaintance, one who demonstrated that genuine heroes are not limited to the realm of the big screen. With his tall 6 feet 3 inches physique, he took a step forward and stepped over them. She had no desire for recognition. All she wanted was to return home without incident. We shouldn't need a famous actor to step in for us to feel safe. However, when a prominent women's rights group reached out to her, she saw an opportunity. Why don't you try to make amends towards her at this very moment? Jason did not show any signs of blinking. The leader of the gang, who was bolstered by the support of his companions, scoffed. "What if we made sure this kind of thing doesn't keep happening?" Across Jason's face sprang a grin that was both slow and menacing. "Try me." Despite the fact that the first guy attacked found himself thrown onto his back, with Jason's forearm pushing into his neck from behind. While the other two were hesitating, Jason's look caused them to remain still. All that followed was a haze of confusion. "Would you like to go with him?" he hissed. The harassers scurried back, their arrogance broken, and the metro erupted in praise on account of their actions. Immediately, as the train arrived at the subsequent stop, Jason assisted Lena in finding a seat, and his tone immediately changed to one of mild concern. Still in a state of shock, Lena nodded. Jason gave a smirk. "Neither can my publicist." In a matter of hours, the tale had gone viral. What about Lena then? That day she received more than simply punishment. There are instances when karma does not wait. Also, it will sometimes put on a well-known face. When Jason Cole was seen flipping the harasser, the video went viral far more quickly than anybody could have anticipated. Despite this, Jason refused to accept credit. A reporter approached him outside of his gym, and he responded by saying, "Anyone with a shred of decency would have done the same." It didn't take long for the three guys, who have been named as Mark, Derek, and Tyler, to become the most despised individuals on the internet. The worst, however, was not yet to come. As it turned out, they had a past together. The ringleader Mark was wanted for breaking a restraining order, and he had an outstanding warrant for his arrest. When the week came to a close, all three of them were placed in handcuffs and were facing actual prison time. On the other hand, Lena found herself at the center of attention. "This happens every day to so many women," she stated in an emotional television interview to the television station. The words she said launched a movement throughout the country. Even while the whole globe rejoiced, Jason did something that nobody could have anticipated. He then phoned Lena. It was him who remarked, "I've been thinking." Following that, they made the announcement of the Safe Streets Initiative, which is a charitable organization that provides financing for self-defense classes, harassment hotlines, and undercover security on public transportation. Just when it seemed that the narrative was coming to an end, the trial of Mark, Derek, and Tyler started. The attorney for the defendants said in court that the defendants were just joking around and that Jason had assaulted them first. This was not acceptable to the judge. On the other hand, Jason appeared. He then took the stand and made a remark that was really chilling. Consider delivering that message to each and every woman who has been harassed, followed, or intimidated. It would be difficult to convey that information to Lena, who continues to look over her shoulder whenever she rides the train. Do you believe that this was only a joke? A round of applause broke out in the courtroom. An obligatory sensitivity training course was also included in the judge's punishment, which ranged from 3 to 6 months in prison. Not only did Lena become a prominent campaigner, but Jason, according to the Safe Streets Initiative. The number of harassment complaints in 3 major cities has been cut in half after a year. To put it simply, he turned the whole event into a movie, and he donated all of the proceeds to organizations that fight harassment. What is the title? No More Silence. And what is the most exciting part? In it, Lena played the role of herself. And there are instances when justice is not only brought about by the law, it is brought about by a single individual who refuses to turn a blind eye. The authorities in charge of the local transport system collaborated with them to install more cameras and emergency buttons. Those women and men who had previously remained quiet began to rise up and fight back. Those who were critical of Jason referred to him as a vigilante and said that he had taken the law into his own hands. A talk show personality who has been the subject of controversy even said that men even compliment women anymore. Certain bullies are only able to learn the hard way, the same way that Jason did. Would you have intervened? Something really remarkable started taking place all around the nation as the Safe Streets Initiative garnered support and increased its momentum. Through the use of a single word, Jason retweeted the most influential ones. Exactly. I want to test whether you can make it through 3 rounds with me. The whole of the revenues are donated to Safe Streets. Upon the arrival of the law enforcement officers, the whole train car defended her and refused to allow her to be prosecuted. With the tagline, Jason Cole started it, the video quickly gained widespread attention. Grandma finally completed it. The establishment of dedicated harassment task squads by police agencies coupled with the implementation of obligatory bystander training by businesses. An elderly woman called Lena Rodriguez, who was 65 years old at the time, used her cane to trip a guy who was harassing a young woman who was in her teenage years. However, as Diego assisted him in standing, he said, "You got heart, man." And he also contributed an additional $1 million to the organization. As part of their mission to monitor and report instances of harassment, a group of high school girls in Seattle organized the Eyes Up Patrol and began riding buses in pairs. There was a backlash, because of course, there was one. Nevertheless, as Tyler left the room, he said to the reporters, only a few people were content. "Are you, Derek?" He disappeared. But a year later, Lena was lucky enough to receive a gift to Safe Streets from an unknown donor. $10,000 in total. What is the reaction of the internet? There was a hashtag called #NoToCompliment, where hundreds of people reported their experiences of being harassed while flirting. They did so not in the roles of hero and victim, but rather as friends and collaborators in positive change. I just want to use the metro for a moment, and in a turn of events that nobody could have anticipated, mixed martial arts champion Diego the Lion Mendez issued a challenge to Jason to fight for a charitable cause. An online video of Diego saying, "You got hands, Hollywood has gone viral." The reaction from Jason, "It is a plan or blueprint. You're correct. For my part, I choose the referee." Knockout Harassment was the name of the bout, and it smashed records for pay-per-view events. Do you have a referee? It's Lena? Was Jason the victor? Obviously, that is not the case. Within a span of 2 years, 3 states enacted Lena's Law, which was a piece of legislation that elevated the penalty for public sexual harassment from a monetary fine to a prison sentence. But what is the most surprising shift? Let us know if you think that the world can be changed. Also, name someone who would have been Jason if he had been riding on that train vehicle. Following the completion of their criminal terms, Mark, Derek, and Tyler made a request to meet with Lena. The apology that no one anticipated. On the condition that the cameras be turned off, Lena consented. Everything that was said behind those closed doors remained confidential. I didn't get it until someone looked me in the eye and said, "How would you feel if it was your sister?" After that, Mark became a member of a men's accountability group and began teaching adolescents about the need of respect. When Jason and Lena appeared on the red carpet for the screening of No More Silence, a grin appeared on Lena's face when she was asked what she believed the movie would achieve. "If I were to ride the metro, I would not consider myself to be brave." As the final credits rolled, the crowd exploded in applause, not just for the movie itself, but also for the change that it symbolized in the real world.
Oh, within the confines of a dimly lit auditorium, there were 3 guys who applauded the loudest.
Simply because the reality is that this is not only a narrative. Whenever you see anything that is not right, you should question yourself.
What would Jason do? Even better, what are you going to do? If you would want to stand up, please leave A in the comments section.